Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and with patch 9.2 coming out, any day could be the day now that they announce patch 10.0 in the next expansion, and there's a good chance we won't see it coming. So I figured I would make a wish list of things I would like to see in 10.0, because interesting to talk about, and they might make the actual announcement sometime soon. Catch us by surprise, figured I'd get this video out before they do that. What am I hoping to see in 10.0? I've decided to record this video here in the beautiful Maw. One thing I'd like to see is not not the Maw again. So the Maw, it's like this endgame zone that we had to spend quite a bit of time in the Maw and then Korthia over the course of this expansion. And it's a zone that's like, it's designed to be hostile to the player, and you can't fly, you couldn't mount for the first half of the or for the first patch of the expansion, and it was designed to be hellish, and it succeeded at that design. But I don't think they should do that again. I think they should use that sparingly, maybe not do it again. I don't know. I felt like it was like the Maw is like, ugh, I have to go to the Maw. So I don't know, questing zones that are fun and engaging, but not like oppressive, not ones that kind of hit you with restrictions on what you can do. Like that feeling where you tried to mount in the Maw and you couldn't was really quite unpleasant. And I know that's what they were going for. I just don't think that's what they should have been going for. So that's one wish for the endgame zone. Similarly here in the Maw, if we look off in the distance, we can see Torghast over there. I think Torghast was an interesting concept. I'm glad they tried it because I like roguelikes, but I do think that there were some structural problems that meant it was kind of doomed. So what I hope they do with Torghast, I do think it's an interesting way to level. I hope that they give it more leveling support than they actually did when they made it a way you could level, like in patch 9.1, patch 9.1.5. They've made improvements to Torghast leveling from 50 to 60. I think it could be an interesting addition to like Chromie time leveling, even having it be a way that you can get some or even all of your levels doing some Torghast runs. But I do think that the last couple of kind of casual single player or queuing for a group type contents they've made have really not done it for me. It's been Torghast, Island Expeditions, Warfronts. Those sorts of things haven't really hit the mark for me. Visions and Azoth actually were the ones that I enjoyed the most that kind of fit into that category. Now, that's not really the category that aims for me the most, right? I'm a raid player, dungeon player, more than somebody who enjoys the kind of casual content. So if they make another thing that kind of misses me, then okay. But my guess was that Torghast didn't really hit all that many people that it was aiming to hit either. So what I'd like to see, okay, here's what I'd like to see, and this is some big copium. Player housing, all right? They tried it a little bit with garrisons, and I'm worried that they're scared off based on how garrisons went. Because garrisons, that was what in do I even have a garrison Hearthstone on this? I do. Yeah, we can go do that. Garrisons, I think, was WoW's attempt at player housing, but what garrisons did was there are a lot of parts about player housing, the appeal of player housing, that garrisons just didn't have. Like building, choosing where stuff goes and furniture and stuff. Like the only thing you could really do with your garrison was choose which plot you constructed each building and choose which building you put in each plot. But it wasn't really there wasn't really that much to that. And the kind of something that I think the player housing concept really does well in some other games is being a place for like artistic expression, sort of like the transmog as well. In WoW, and I think that they shouldn't be afraid to give that another swing and just pretend that garrisons never happened, because I think it could be really good. Because okay, one other thing garrisons did wrong, right, was you kind of secluded yourself away in your garrison or away from the rest of the world, and didn't really interact with other players. So that's definitely something I think that they could try and fix. And also the fact that you only had one location to build your garrison in, depending on which faction you were. I think what would be cool would be if there was like the Elder Scrolls Online solution to this is most major cities have one or two plots where you can build a house or where you can move in and go there, and then there's a bunch of furniture that comes from all sorts of different places. And WoW has a really rich history full of reputations that could get revered and exalted, furniture rewards. Has a bunch of professions that have felt pretty anemic, especially in Shadowlands, right? The profession fantasy, I feel like, is on full life support. But if you imagine that each profession, interacted with the house, with designing furniture for a house, I feel like that could be a really good way to revitalize it. And could you imagine, again, one of the things that like vanilla had for professions was locations, like the Moonwell was important for some professions. Could you imagine, again, bringing that sort of stuff back and adding places that you had to go to make certain furniture, and then maybe even being able to build those places into your house and being able to use them there? Could be pretty cool. So that's my pitch for what I would be most excited about as like a casual system, as not a casual player, would be just a big swing at player housing and adding, player housing drops to all the legacy raid content, all that kind of stuff. On that note, I feel like legacy raid content is a cool place for them to look at. If they were gonna do this, right? If they were gonna make player housing a thing and give us reasons to go back and look at old raids, one really cool Reddit post I saw 1 year ago now was this one from Natax, which is a talent tree of buffs that you could get for legacy raid running, including stuff like teleports to raid instances, being able to loot plate transmog on a leather character, that kind of stuff, and unlock it, movement speed type stuff. And I feel like some sort of system like this, some sort of fleshed out way to make the playstyle of like going and running old raids for cosmetic rewards into something that was more supported, I think could be pretty cool. It could even maybe add like a single player tuning pass to those raids, so that there's even like, no, I'm not talking about like a level of difficulty where you'd wipe very often, but just like go through and make it so it's actually like a bit of a adventure and not just a full-on one-shot party through some of the older raids, like something more similar to soloing the Legion raids is now, something like that. I'm not sure. I do think that those are areas of the game that people already do now, and there's not much support. So like building a bit of support in could make them even more compelling for those sorts of players, and could introduce a lot more people to that kind of stuff. So those are some of the like casual centered things that I think could be cool in a new expansion. High-end stuff, I think tier sets. Hopefully those work out well in 9.2. I think there's been a huge set of quality of life increases to tier set in 9.2. So carrying that forward into future expansions sounds good to me. Keeping a look at, acquiring them, making sure that there aren't groups of players that feel really alienated by how they're acquired. But I really do think that like getting them from the Great Vault and then being able to get them from the Catalyst of Creation 8 weeks in the line would be pretty cool. And that sort of system, I think, could be extended more as well. I think that the idea of like, hey, here's this power that you can rush for, or we'll unlock it later down the line for casual players, for alts, and for returning players to kind of bypass that grind, right? The advantage is you can rush it early, you can get the power early, or you can get it later at lower effort. I think that's a really cool formula, and I'd like to see them extend that beyond just tier to stuff like sockets, any kind of power systems, right? Conduits in Shadowlands would have been a good example of something as well. Shards of Domination in 9.1. Those sorts of systems, I think it would be cool if there was more... a way that you kind of got some help later into the patch in a sort of planned way, rather than this, what has happened in previous patches, which is just like 3 to 6 months into the patch, if the devs decide they want to, they hotfix in an arbitrary way of making it easier. I like this. I like the way the Catalyst creation is like an announced feature with an announced time and an announced way that it's going to work, that lets you really plan for like, okay, I'm going to be focusing on my main, I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And then 2 months into the patch, it's Alt City, right? I'm going to get to do all this kind of, all the fun stuff on my alts, and I don't have to like be doing this grind for 2 months to get all that stuff. I actually think something like that could be added for more deterministic item sourcing as well. There are some really powerful items in this game that Blizzard, what they've done in 9.2 is they've kind of made a few less of them. Items like Jathis, Edge of Night, those items from Sanctum, right? And even some M plus trinkets have been nerfed as well. And this is for balance, this is good, right? To move things closer together, right? Squish things down. But I like the idea of a game that has powerful, exciting items that you know the name of them because they're really cool. And similarly, I think that, being able to try really hard to get them early, to rush to get them early, to have that be a moment where your character gets more powerful. Like, I understand why they want that to be in an MMO. But I think, again, like 8 weeks, 10 weeks into the patch, if you could start having some system that let you, guarantee you were going to get any one given item after, a couple weeks of clearing the content that it drops from, that sort of thing, I think it would be pretty cool too. All right, other stuff. All right, let's just talk really quick about emissaries and callings, because to me, changing from emissaries to callings was a lot like, and this is going to age me quite a bit, it was a lot like when Windows came out with Windows Vista, and we'd had Windows XP, and Windows XP did a lot of stuff really well, and then they just took a lot of those same features and made them objectively worse in Windows Vista for just it was a complete own goal, unforced error. And I think they should just do what Windows then did, which is make Windows 8 and go back to the way that XP did a lot of things. And that's what they should do with emissaries. Emissaries should be... The fact that emissaries were automatically picked up and you didn't have to visit somebody in a random zone to collect the emissary, go to a different zone to then do the quests, and then return to that original zone, right, and turn it in. The way emissaries worked was you just had the quest, you went to the zone where the world quests were, and then you turned it in that zone as well. And that was fantastic, and it was the kind of thing where you'd log on an alt, you'd be flying over that zone, you'd be like, oh, sweet. All right, let me just go do these world quests. And on a similar note, the world quests there were some good ones. They weren't all good ones, but there were some world quests that you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh, that's a nice world quest. That's a fun... You'd look at it on the minimap and you'd be like, oh, cool. That one's up. It either has a good reward or it's in the emissary zone. I'm going to go do that. Now in Shadowlands, it's much more a case of like, if for some reason you feel like you want to do the calling, or if you're on some alt that like needs a conduit that drops from world quest, you're like, oh god, what's the least bad world quests that are out there to do this? There are a few Shadowlands ones that are like okay, right? There's the Parasol Peril one, I like that one. There's the Ramparts Race Day thing, not bad either. There's this one, Kill 2 arena opponents, which can be fine. That's fine as long as there are other people there. There's the one where you run around Theater of Pain in a nice little circle. There's the flight training ones in Bastion, the one here and here, although this one you fall through the flowers like 10% of the time, and really frustrating. Those are the only good world quests, though. Actually, you know what? This one's fine, too. The Kill 3 Gorm, that one's fine, too. But those are the only good world quests in this whole expansion. The rest are just absolutely horrific. There's just like 7-part, right? They bait you in here. It's like, oh, 0 out of 1, obtain disguise from Amberfoot. That's probably an easy thing to do. And you complete this, and then it's like 10 more objectives, right? It's like you open one of those pop-up books and just a huge set of objectives pops up and ambushes you. And I'm okay with some world quests being like that, but I miss the days of Legion where there'd be like, 0 to 3 per zone on any given day would just be like, go and kill this elite. Right? And you'd be like, oh, sweet, I'll go do that. And, maybe I'll do this emissary over 3 days, only doing easy world quests. Or maybe I'll do the easiest ones that are on the map and then go do a hard one or two as well that has the good rewards and, emissary done. That was a much more... Like, I like that they made world quests less important in Shadowlands, but I hate the world quests they've chosen to go with so much. And, like... I would like to collect some anima, collect some of the cosmetic rewards, but the ratio of the amount of anima you get from World Quest, which has been buffed by a huge amount at this point in the patch, is still just like you're telling me. Actually, this some of the ones in this particular area of Maldraxxus, not this one, but the other one that's over here, riding the flayed wing, that one's also not bad. But you're telling me I have to do like 50 of those world quests to get some one cosmetic piece. It's not happening, right? Like I'm off it. I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, that's another gripe slash wishlist item for 10.0. And then I think I've buried the lead a little bit here because the main thing I'm hoping for in 10.0 is good class design, good class balance. I think there's a good chance they'll add a new class because it's been a while since they've done that. And I know some people are like either add new specs or balance existing classes instead, which I guess on a theoretical level I'd be fine with, but I think that they've got a pretty big incentive to add a new class as like a headlining thing about a new expansion. And if for 3 expansions in a row they haven't added a new class, I think that would start to raise some questions about like, is the game dead? Are they out of ideas? So I bet they'll add a new class. I just hope it's good and fun. And yeah, balanced and cool and not AoE capped. And yeah, I hope the dungeons are good. I hope there's a nice amount of dungeons. I think that one thing about Shadowlands that made dungeon pushing as a activity much less appealing than previous expansions is just like look how much Legion has, right? Legion started with more dungeons and then added dungeons every single patch, right? Return to Karazhan, Seat of the Triumvirate, Cathedral of Eternal Night, BFA, even more dungeons, although not as many. And then in Shadowlands, it's like 8 for most of the expansion, and in the final patch of the expansion, we're adding 1 or 2 new M+ dungeons, right? That's it really is hard to overstate just how much a couple more dungeons would do for variety, I think. So I'd like to see that. I'd be fine with it in the form of returning some old dungeons. Just give us Freehold again for a season, and then give us, Halls of Valor for a season, or Court of Stars for a season. Go in Iron Docks for a season, right? Go and pick some old dungeon. Pick one that people like. So I'm sure some people reacted negatively to some of the ones I say. Do some focus groups. See which ones people liked, and bring one back for an M+ season. That could be a good way to increase the amount of dungeons. And then, yeah, cool seasonal affixes. I think Encrypted is a good one already. Hopefully it ends up proving to be a good one, but from PTR testing, looks like it'll be pretty fun. Awakened. I liked Reaping as well. I think those are the 3 medalists I would have so far of the seasonal affixes they've made. And yeah, then raids, right? More frequent raid release schedule would be nice. It looks like they've kind of just missed one raid tier relative to a usual expansion in Shadowlands. So if they can get back on the usual pace, that would be cool. Obviously, I understand Shadowlands was created in a time of tremendous global difficulties, so willing to cut some slack there. But hopefully they can get all the raids out and keep pumping out high quality raid encounters, because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing, I think, for me, is the raid encounters. Anyways, that is half rant, half wishlist, half inane rambling. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I said that you disagree with, or any ideas that that you have that would be cool in 10.0. If I ever actually do publish this video, this might be one of the ones where I hit stop recording and just rewatch through it. I'm like, what is this video? And just it stays on my hard drive and never comes out. So if you're seeing this, that means I've decided to hit the upload button, which may or may not be a mistake. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.